Simon Bennett, the man, the myth, the legend. Thank you so much for chatting with me today. I'm super excited. I'm a longtime Power Ranger fan. I've grown up with the franchise. I've watched every season, so I'm extremely excited to talk to you about all this. So first of all, many fans were pleasantly surprised with Power Rangers going back to adapting something like Beast Morphers, which came from Go Busters, because it's the first time Power Rangers went back and adapted a Super Sentai from a previous series. What went into that decision making?
Well, this was before I was involved in that kind of decision making, in that I was the director on Beast Morphers and a director on Ninja Steel, and I've only become executive producer, showrunner on the new season of Dino Fury. But I have talked to Chip Lynn about the decisions that went into adapting Go Busters for Beast Morphers. And he'd had the idea sometime, like some years before it was actually decided to go ahead with it. He'd written up how the adaptation would work. I think I put it in a drawer. And then after Ninja Steel, he dusted off that proposal and pitched it. And everyone was generally enthusiastic. And I think one of the things you have to look at when you're adapting a Sentai series is what is the world? What are the costumes like? What are the Zords like? What are the weapons like? What do all these items look like? And how can we make an exciting story around them? Because Sentai, of course, is the starting point for every Power Rangers season. And I think everyone thought that the costumes, which are leather, unlike the usual spandex, and the Zords and the weaponry and the world of Go Busters had a really cool look to it. And I think that was the starting point for how it came to be adapted. Of course, because all those monster costumes and props were pretty old by the time we got to bring them over from Japan for Beast Morphers, quite a lot of the rubber had perished. And there was quite a lot of rebuilding from scratch that went on. Not to mention the costumes that kind of fell apart on set. I remember shooting a scene with the Ranger teens in the Power Ranger costumes, but with the helmets off. This was actually in the finale episode when Evox is zapping Steel in the center of the Morphex tower, and the Ranger teens are cowering by the door, unable to do anything to help. The trousers of two of the male members of the team were held together with black gaffer tape because they had literally fallen apart at the seams and were completely unshootable. So that's one of the downsides of adapting a season that is quite old. But I think that the aesthetics of Go Busters and the design elements that we adopted and brought into Beast Morphers are fantastic and timeless.
I couldn't agree more. And also, you couldn't be more right. Like, Beast Morphers honestly did feel like a love letter to the fans that have been with the show for about 27 years, because you got those elements and it was like breadcrumbs. You got it in every so often in all these episodes that led up to this epic finale, which was phenomenal. Now, with Beast Morphers diving so deep in the Power Rangers mythology, did that help you prepare to take over the showrunner position for the series?
Only in a little way. I guess when I started shooting scenes in the legendary Ranger Vault, and I realized how important all these various morphers and props were, because they meant something to the fans who'd been loyal to the show for many seasons. And you can't put that one in here because, or it's got to be these ones. I realized there was more to Power Rangers than meets the eye, and there are people out there with a encyclopedic knowledge of the lore and canon, and that is to be respected. And I know that Becca and Alwyn, who are the two story editors on the show, do their utmost to serve the loyalty of those fans who know every detail and every inside out. We use Ranger Wiki a lot to research previous seasons, as well as watching them on Netflix, where they're available here in New Zealand. And we certainly respect the longevity of the show and how deeply the serious fans hold Power Rangers in their hearts.
Absolutely, and I'm one of those fans. So I know that you're taking over the EP role for Dino Fury, but you directed Ninja Steel and Beast Morphers, as you stated. Can you talk to me about when you knew that you wanted to dip your toes further into the franchise?
That's an interesting question. I mean, I was approached while I was still directing Beast Morphers. So when I was directing the finale, I knew that there would be, I would be going straight into a handover with Chip. But I haven't, sorry, I'll start again. My track record in screen drama is in both creative producing and directing. I've done both for many years. So coming into Power Rangers as a director, once I'd got over the initial terror and getting my head around the sheer complexity of making a show like this, because it's not at all easy, I did think I would love to actually work on a new season from the beginning and have involvement in all the creative aspects of a Power Rangers show that a director doesn't have. Because as a director, you come on board a couple of weeks before shooting starts, you get given your scripts, you work out how to shoot them, you film them with the crew and with the actors, you've got 3 days in the editing room, and then you walk away. And the year or so of development that goes up to that point is run by the showrunner. And then post-production, the final cut, and the visual effects, and the ADR, and all those elements that go into polishing the show in the showrunner's hands again. So the idea of having a complete creative overview of a season really appealed to me, because I like the show. I didn't know it before I started working on it. So I can't say my association with Power Rangers goes back for decades. But once I jumped into this particular pool and saw how much fun it could be, I fell in love and wanted to keep working on it.
I love it, because I also have a 5-year-old stepdaughter, and I got her into Power Rangers, so it almost felt like a passing of the torch essence to me as well. So I love the aspect of the series continuing on for future iterations to come. Now, Chip Lynn is legendary in the Power Ranger world. He's been the showrunner for quite a while. Can you talk to me about any advice Chip may have given you when knowing that you were going to helm the series?
I can't think of any specific advice. We did work together very closely. He stayed in New Zealand probably for a year after filming finished on Beast Morphers. So he and I worked together closely with the story editors on developing the new season. And I guess watching how Chip worked in that showrunner role taught me a lot, just simply through observation. I think that the main things I picked up from Chip were treat people with kindness, because he is a very kind person, and treat everyone with the respect they're due as being experts in their field. So that's really important. But also his attention to detail is formidable. There isn't a single aspect of the show that he doesn't cast his eye over. Every single prop, every single costume, every single location. He would be on set for the block throughs of scenes, making sure that the stories were being told correctly and that the actors and the directors were making the quite correct decision. He'd be across every frame of the edit, and every single visual effect shot was approved by Chip. Same with the scoring. You know, it's a complete hands-on, micromanaging attention to detail, which is what makes the show so consistent, is that level of creative overview. And so watching him do that taught me, well, it made me nervous because it's such a massive job I was taking on and there were such big shoes to fill, but also taught me about what is important and how easy it is to let something slip, and a whole lot of things can fall over like a row of dominoes if you're not careful and not across things. So yeah, attention to detail was a big part of what Chip taught me.
Now, in the past, Power Rangers has had some traditions that fans still clamor for. For example, there were always team-ups in previous seasons. Now, I know that in Ninja Steel, there was a massive team-up with Dimensions in Danger, and in Beast Morphers, there was that epic grid connection episode with all the Dino teams. Is team-ups, because one of the things that we used to get was team-ups with the previous season, are those are those on the table still, or things that you can look for, or fans can look forward to possibly bringing back for the future iterations of Power Rangers?
Well, obviously, I can't talk in any detail about Dino Fury,
Sure.
but those kinds of team ups have always been part of the show, as you say, in the past. I think that COVID makes things more complicated because we film in New Zealand and the borders are closed and you have to get a government exemption to come into the country. So that is a challenge, particularly if we were to bring an actor in to film for 2 or 3 days. They would have to be in quarantine for 2 weeks.
Wow.
After they arrived, if we could get them into the country. So there are challenges in the way there. But I do think an awareness of the previous versions of the show and the previous range of teams is something going forward that is likely to be part of the show on an ongoing basis. I think that one of the interesting things about Beast Morphers was that it brought all the various prior teams and dimensions together by having Grid Battle Force, where people studied Power Ranger history and they knew about the various teams, they knew about all the various villains from the past, meant that in future seasons, the previous teams are real in the world, as opposed to let's pretend they didn't exist and we're starting from scratch.
See, now you're talking to the geek, my inner geek of Power Rangers right now. Amazing to me. Now, the Beast Morphers finale airs this week. It wraps up a tremendous season, and you guys finished so strong. It was such an amazing season. But right after that, how soon into the process do you go right back to work and start on the next season? Do you guys get a chance to enjoy the finale at all, or is it right back to work?
Well, you have to remember we filmed the finale, I think, in April last year. So how long is that? It's many, many months ago. 18, 20 months ago, we filmed that finale. So I've been working on Dino Fury since May of last year. As soon as I came off Beast Morphers, I went for a 1-week holiday with my family. And then I was into developing and working with Chip and the writers on the new season. And that was in development for a good 18 months before production got underway. So coming up with the concept and the story outlines and writing all those scripts through all their various drafts and accommodating all the feedback and the notes and the input that various people, it's not a quick process, and a lot of thought goes into it. And by the time filming starts, pretty much the whole season has been worked out.
It's amazing. Now, the show has been around for nearly 30 years, and it's outlasted many other family shows, kid shows. Why do you think Power Rangers has lasted the test of time?
I think the formula works. I think it was Haim Saban's invention to adapt Sentai and create a unique team up of teenage superheroes, but utilizing the fantastic designs and monsters and Zords and costumes from the Japanese show. That was quite a unique idea, bringing all those elements together. And I think it's held its appeal with young viewers. And the other thing about Power Rangers is that it's made for predominantly sort of 4 to 6, 4 to 7-year-old kids. And every 2 years, that audience refreshes, it reinvents itself. There's another whole new range of kids that age who can be introduced to it. So in a way, you've got a unique show with an audience that's constantly being refreshed, which is a positive. But also I would say that the color of those Power Rangers, those bright primary colors, and the excitement of the action sequences, they'll never get old or stale. And I think kids just love watching that. And finally, I think that the values of the show endure, the basic values of teamwork and friendship and good versus evil. That's something that everyone will identify with, and it keeps going. It's significant.
I couldn't agree more. Power Rangers is very reminiscent to me of an American version of Doctor Who, where the audience gets to grow with the Doctor, and you get a new Doctor every now and then. And it feels very much like you said, it's almost like every 2 years, it's like a regeneration for Power Rangers with a new team out there. Speaking of new teams, I know that we're not going to talk that much about Dino Fury, but we're going back to dinosaurs, and dinosaurs have always been synonymous with Power Rangers. When I think of dinosaurs as a kid, or even now as an adult, automatically my mind just drifts to Power Rangers. Can you tell me why dinosaurs and Power Rangers just seems like such a great fit together?
Uh, I don't know, other than that it's worked in the past with Dino Charge and Mighty Morphin. I do think young kids have a fascination with dinosaurs. I don't know if that's built into people's DNA or if it's cultural or what, but you go into any toy shop and you can see shelves and shelves full of dinosaur products. And I know both my kids went through a dinosaur phase where even before my daughter could talk, she could see a dinosaur and she could make growling noises. You know, there's that child-like fascination with monsters, with big things that growl. And you know, it's whether there's a monster under the bed which terrifies you as a kid, but also fascinates you at the same time. And I think that's kind of hardwired into us and has become something that's pretty universal. So dinosaurs have a huge appeal for kids. And I think that's why the dinosaur seasons in Power Rangers work and will continue to work.
Out of curiosity, what's your favorite season when you went back and watched all the shows?
I really like RPM, to be honest. I do appreciate that it's more adult in tone. So as far as hitting home with the show's target audience, it might not have been the most successful, but I really like the aesthetic of that show. And I like the way that the comedy within the show was built into the Ranger team and felt like a natural aspect of the Ranger storytelling. There are various things of that show that I really admire. Not that I would necessarily be replicating them, but sure. as a piece of television, I really like that season.
Now, in 30 years, the franchise has amassed such a wide range of fans, with celebrities included like WWE superstars Seth Rollins, Ronda Rousey, and Xavier Woods wearing ring gear that have influenced them from Power Rangers. And also you got NFL players doing morphs after tackles. And even this year, the Kardashians were Power Rangers for Halloween. So can you talk to me about how to balance, how to use that balancing act for a show that's primarily for 4 to 6 year olds, but also has this large fan base that's been following the show for such a long amount of time?
It's really challenging. If you start thinking about all those adult fans out there, then you just can't function. We have to make the show for the target audience, which is 4 to 7 year olds or 4 to 6 year olds, because that requires a particular type of writing and a particular type of storytelling. And if it continues to have resonance with a wider audience, with an adult audience, particularly people who might have grown up watching Power Rangers in the 90s and still feel very affectionate towards it and have a sense of nostalgia, then that's great. That's fantastic. From time to time, we do bring in threads or ideas or stories or characters that hark back to previous seasons. And yes, that is a conscious way of rewarding the loyal fans who have stuck with the show, but it always has to be in such a way that we're not going to lose the kids. The kids have to watch that episode and love the episode, even if they've got no idea who the people from previous teams are or what the references are. So keeping the show successful for the young audience, from our point of view, is the single most important thing, and everything else is a fantastic bonus.
Last question I have for you, Simon, is Power Ranger has spanned over 27 years with completely different iterations. And I know that you said earlier that you really loved RPM, the aesthetic of it, the look of it as a piece of television, but you wouldn't necessarily, be infusing whatever we have coming up next with that. But if fans were to try to pick your brain and say, you know what do we think the tone is going to be for Dino Fury? If you were to say, you know what, maybe watch this season, what would that recommended rewatch be?
I can't say anything about Dino Fury except to say that there will be dinosaurs in it, and the fans should watch Dino Charge and Mighty Morphin because those seasons also had dinosaurs in them. But I can't give away anything. All I can say is I'm really happy with how it is developing, and I think it is unique and fresh, and I'm hoping that the fans will be super excited when they get to see it.
We already are excited for it. We can't wait for Dino Fury. But look, let's not forget Beast Morphers wraps up this weekend, and Beast Morphers was so good. And I felt it really brought Power Rangers back to what its core was. And it really was a love letter to the fans. So I want to thank all you guys for giving us Beast Morphers. We're truly excited for what's on the horizon for Power Rangers, because we think that, we're just scratching the surface with how big it can grow. So Simon, it's been a pleasure chatting with you.